Gremlins 3 is happening. It is actually happening for real this time, at least that's what they claim. Don't do this, Warner Brothers. Don't do this, Steven Spielberg. Do not do this, Chris Columbus. Do not give me hope. But yeah, someone in Hollywood must have got wet and ate after midnight because Gremlins 3 is happening. So this is a story that came out exclusively from the Hollywood Reporter and now it is all over the internet. But Warner Brothers had their quarterly earnings financial report / for sale sign. And usually in these reports is when they'll announce their upcoming projects that they have slated. And the one that they announced in this most recent one is that Gremlins 3 is officially happening. Whoever's working on the Gremlins, I'm ready to be a voice, baby. I'm ready to be a gremlin. Let's go. Kiss I got them all, baby. I got them all. Let's go. I'm ready. My throat is ready for a gremlin to be in it. In case you don't know, I am a humongous, and I do mean humongous, Gremlins fan. It is literally one of my favorite movies of all time, one of my favorite franchises of all time. I argue that just like Die Hard, Gremlins is a Christmas movie, and I watch it every Christmas. I love Gizmo. I love the Gremlins. I collect them. I have old Gremlins merchandise, new Gremlins merchandise. I think I even have the novelizations based on the movie somewhere. I absolutely love Gremlins. So I have been wanting them to try and attempt to do Gremlins again. Gremlins have made some cameos in other movies. They've even had some cameos in commercials every now and then. But yeah, man, I always thought it was a fun franchise. And considering that Gremlins is specifically about messing around with technology, I feel like they are always primed to show up whenever we have a new technological age. And now being in the age of the internet, smartphones, digital devices, AI, Gremlins could have a whole field day with all that stuff. Could you imagine the female Gremlin as like an influencer? Get ready with me. It's giving. It's giving. No cap 6-7. I sound so old right now. There have been rumors and murmurs and talks about trying to make a Gremlins 3 probably ever since Gremlins 2 came out in 1990. Well, real talk though, Gremlins 2 in 1990 did not do as well as Warner Brothers wanted it to do, so it kind of scrapped Gremlins for a while. There was even talks, I think, at one point to have a Gremlins animated series back in the 90s alongside Tiny Toons and Animaniacs and Beetlejuice, but that never happened. But Gremlins has always been this thing that they've always wanted to bring back, especially in the age of reboots and remakes and sequels. But there's a couple of factors here. One, who's going to want to helm a Gremlins project when that franchise has been dormant for so long, and the original director of Gremlins, Joe Dante, probably does not want to make a Gremlins 3, didn't even want to make a Gremlins 2 until they allowed him to basically do whatever he wanted to with Gremlins 2, which is why it's as wacky as it is. But who's going to take that on? And two, Gremlins is under Steven Spielberg's Amblin Entertainment just as much as it is under Warner Brothers, which means that Steven Spielberg has to give the final approval for any kind of Gremlins thing to happen. He did give the approval for that Gremlins animated series that was on HBO Max, which if you haven't seen that, it's really cool. Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai and Gremlins The Wild Batch, highly recommend it. But that was always a hold off if he was going to sign off on any Gremlins script. But I guess you get the writer from the original movie, Chris Columbus, to come on board, not only to write a brand new script, but also to direct the new Gremlins. And I guess it moved forward. Plus again, Warner Brothers trying to make themselves look pretty, just in case anybody's interested in, you know, give them a little bit of money, picking them up off the street. You like what you see, baby? You want some Gremlins? You want some Looney Tunes? You want some Superman? I can do all that for you, baby. All right, so let's get into this article from the Hollywood Reporter. So Columbus is on board to direct the new sequel to the Warner Brothers 1984 classic. Yes, Gremlins came out in 1984. It is over 40 years old. Do you feel old yet? The directing duo behind this summer's horror hit Final Destination Bloodlines have teamed up with Chris Columbus to write a new feature installment of Gremlins, Warner Brothers horror comedy franchise featuring little mischievous monsters, the Hollywood Reporter has learned. So yes, working on this movie is not only Chris Columbus, who wrote on the original Gremlins, but also, I'm sorry if I messed your names up, Adam B. Stein, think I got that one, Zach Lipovsky, Did I do that right? But they are the people behind Final Destination Bloodlines, which was the latest Final Destination film, which actually did really well, both financially and critically. $315 million worldwide on a budget of around $50 million, becoming not only the highest grossing entry in the franchise, but also the best reviewed. Final Destination, of course, being another franchise that has been dormant for a little bit and now had this resurgence thanks to this new movie. So that seems like a good team to bring in to bring back the long dormant Gremlins. The duo are known for their directing work, but the opportunity to work as writers on a movie series that was a childhood favorite of them both, and to work with Columbus, who also wrote 1980s classic The Goonies and directed Home Alone. I'll see you both for the movies pretty soon, I'm sure. If Warner Brothers is making Gremlins, I know Goonies is standing right around the corner going, good enough. So they're just basically saying that usually they're directors, but because they were able to work with Chris Columbus, they said that was an opportunity that was too good to pass up. Development occurs as the feature project moves full steam ahead at Warner's, with the studio announcing Thursday on an earnings call that it is dating the movie for November 19th, 2027. My calendar is already set. My seat is already ready to go. Obviously, we'll see if they make that date. Anything could happen. Reshoots, changes, a sale of Warner Brothers that could make that date change. But as of right now, that's what they're slated for. They're trying to release this November 2027. Please be in IMAX. I want my Gremlins in IMAX. I want my Gremlins in 4DX. Make my chair shake as the Gremlins attack. Christy Krieger and Holly Barrio of Amblin Entertainment are producing the project. Like I was saying, Amblin's got to give the okay. Steven Spielberg returns to executive produce. That's right, this is a Steven Spielberg presents production. Joe Dante directed Gremlins, but Steven Spielberg was an executive producer on the original Gremlins movie. So of course, with him having to give approval, kind of makes sense for him to be like, all right, you want this movie to be made? My name's got to be on that executive producer credit. I got to get a little bit of this Gremlin money too now. We got more Jurassic movies to make. Someone's got to fit the bill. A script by Columbus has been in development at least since 2017. Now this one I did know about because before Columbus's script, they were talking about, what's that guy's name? It's like Seth Grahame-Smith. So yeah, back in January 2013, Vulture reported that Warner Brothers was negotiating with Amblin Entertainment to try to reboot the Gremlins franchise at that point using Seth Grahame-Smith. He was tapped to produce alongside David Katzenberg, but that project was put on hold. And then years later, Chris Columbus had been going around doing some interviews and said that he was actually working on a script for Gremlins. Zach Galligan, who played Billy in the original Gremlins, he had been doing a couple interviews as well, saying that he had talked with Chris Columbus and knew that there was some kind of script brewing. And what I'm assuming is maybe the original idea was to completely reboot the Gremlins franchise, but I'm going to assume with Chris Columbus coming back, with Zach Galligan talking about it, that this is probably going to be one of those legacy sequels where it'll be a brand new adventure, definitely some new cast members, but there's always the possibility that the door is open for original cast members to return. I am almost certain that Zach Galligan is going to be in this in some kind of way. I would love Phoebe Cates to be in it too. Any living cast members from Gremlins could be in it. Any living cast members from Gremlins 2 could possibly be in it. Okay, all right. I know it's going to sound terrible, but I just got to put it out there. So John Glover was in Gremlins 2, and he played a character named Daniel Clamp. He was the head of a New York skyscraper building. He owned a lot of television stations, kind of like Ted Turner. And he also owned a lot of random businesses, buildings, and hotels, kind of like somebody you might have heard of him. Yeah, he who shall not be named. As sad as it makes me to say this, if we do another Gremlins and they want to bring any returning cast members back and they bring back John Glover as Daniel Clamp, he's going to be president, isn't he? I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if that's in the cards, but I really have a feeling that if Daniel Clamp comes back for this movie, which John Glover came back and did a voice for the Gremlins animated series, so he's in cahoots, it's gonna be President Clamp. It's totally gonna be President Clamp. Are we gonna have Gremlins in the White House? I feel like we already do. I'm laughing because I'm crying inside. Columbus said to the Hollywood Reporter, "I'm filled with tremendous surge of inspiration and passion as I embark on this cinematic journey. It's an honor to reunite with Steven Spielberg and Warner Brothers as we bring the latest chapter of Gremlins to a brand new generation of moviegoers who will experience all the thrills of this grand adventure on the big screen. And hopefully they come out for it." Look, I love Gremlins. There's no question about it, but Gremlins has been out of the loop. You know, the last time I remember them having a big impact in pop culture was in Multiverses, and we see how that turned out. Although they were hot in Space Jam: A New Legacy, they had their own little shot in that scene. They have been around, but I don't know if the Gen Zs and Alphas are really hardcore Gremlins lovers. So we'll see if this will be a Ghostbusters Afterlife situation or a Tron Ares situation. Just because y'all came from the 80s don't mean you're loved the same. Few titles are as beloved and iconic as Gremlins, and we're beyond excited to bring it back for both lifelong fans and a whole new generation, said Jesse Ehrman, Warner's president of development and production. It's a privilege to be working alongside Steven Spielberg, Chris Columbus, and the entire creative team, and we look forward to audiences experiencing the magic, mayhem, and heart of Gremlins on the big screen in 2027. I mean, these are great words. I really would like to see this happen. But like I said with the Jetsons movie that's in talks with Jim Carrey, I'll feel it when I get a trailer. I'll feel it when I see a set. I'll feel it when some production company, Jim Henson's Creature Shop or somebody walks in and goes, here's our animatronic gremlin for the new movie. When I see that stuff, if Rick Baker comes out of retirement and is like, I'm ready, baby, let's do this, then I'll be hyped. But until then, this is all talk. But seeing as they have a release date, seeing as that they are kind of pushing forward with this, seeing as this news came from the official studio and production companies and not a random in-source inside of the production on the internet, I feel a little bit more confidence that this is going to happen, which is why I feel comfortable to give this energy that I'm giving. But I've been here before with Gremlins and other projects, so we will see what happens. Now, the only person not mentioned throughout this whole process is Joe Dante, other than saying that he was the director of the original Gremlins movies. But I'm assuming that even if he's not part of it from a directing standpoint or story standpoint, I totally see him being a consultant. He was a consultant on the Gremlins animated series. This article doesn't mention anything about what the script or the story is going to be for this new Gremlins movie, but Chris Columbus did do an interview back in 2017 where he did describe his script as twisted and dark. And I think he's just saying that to say that it's going to be more like the first Gremlins and not so much like the second Gremlins, which is totally fine. I like both movies equally, but obviously Gremlins 1 was a horror movie with comedy blended in, toned down a little bit for a PG audience, but still had its scary moments. Whereas Gremlins 2 is a Looney Tunes cartoon. That's really what it is.
You guys know that none of that is going to be in the actual movie.
So I would imagine that this new Gremlins movie is going to have the tone of the first one. He also said in his script is exploring the idea that has been on the fans' minds for a long time. If all the Gremlins come from Gizmo getting wet and feeding his Mogwai offspring after midnight, should Gizmo be eliminated? That's actually a very fair argument. Look, I know Billy loves Gizmo, so sweet. But if this creature is the reason why Gremlins exist, then, you know, is it possible to just kind of go back to Gizmo and just, you know, now, I say that with a grain of salt because that could have been an idea that they had. It doesn't mean that is the idea. It's very possible that, especially with these new writers on board, that changes could happen and that the script could morph into something that's either a variation of this script that Chris Columbus was working on or something completely new and different altogether. But either way, there's definitely something brewing and I'm very excited about it. And like I said, just the fact that he's mentioning Gizmo in some of these interviews and articles, the fact that Zach Galligan has been talking about it as well. Like I said, this is really giving me vibes. This is going to be a continuation story and not a full-blown reboot, which is cool. In this wonderful article that's talking about all things Gremlins in this new project, there is one key thing that is not being mentioned, and that is how exactly are they going to do the Gremlins? Because obviously in the original two movies, the Gremlins were mostly animatronic puppets. There was a little bit of CG played in the second one, but it was mostly animatronics and puppets. I do think that there is going to be a push to use practical effects. If they have like a big wide scene where they want to have a whole bunch of Gremlins, I'm not going to be mad if CG is used for something like that. But definitely for any close-up scenes with a Gremlin, it would just be nice to still use animatronics, to still use puppets. When you watch Gremlins today, this 1984 movie, those puppets still hold up, man. They still look great. So obviously there is something nice about using practical effects for lighting, for interacting with your actors, all that kind of stuff. So I would say any kind of actor interaction, any kind of close-up interaction, try to use animatronics, try to use puppets. But you know, if you have some big wide scene where a bunch of them are running around a city or anything like that, okay, fine, whatever. No AI Gremlins though. Unless they make them. Unless the Gremlins in the movie make the AI Gremlins. And now with the way that we have both practical and CG, the way that we can make some very creative ideas, man, I just can't wait to see the types of Gremlins we see in this. Like if Gremlins 1 is the tone you want to go with, that's totally fine. But Gremlins 2, with all the crazy gremlins they had in that movie, the vegetable gremlin, the bat gremlin, the spider gremlin, the brain gremlin, the lady gremlin, the electricity gremlin. Like, I would still like to see that vibe in a new Gremlins movie. Like, make some wild out there creative gremlins. That would be awesome. Or even just the gremlins themselves without any powers, just having very distinct personalities, very distinct faces and designs. I think that would be nice as well. That's something I really liked about the animated series, is that they were able to make every Mogwai and every gremlin look visually different. Whereas usually in the movies, it was like, okay, we're gonna have so many gremlin puppets and then we're gonna do a variety of them wearing different clothes. So now you can do a lot of very fun things with facial expressions. You can do a lot of fun things with designs of height, weight, everything, and just have a bunch of distinct gremlins, because I'm just going to imagine that some toys and merchandise will be made as part of this movie. I know NECA, who makes the gremlin figures now, are like, let's bring this movie on, baby. So if you're going to be making some gremlins action figures or some gremlins merchandise, it would even be better to have different types of gremlins so that everyone can try to buy the whole set. And by everyone, I mean me. I'm going to spend so much money on whatever merchandise gets put out when this movie gets put out. So those are pretty much my thoughts about the Gremlins sequel that is possibly coming soon, November 2027. I am seated. I am ready. Bring it on. Howie Mandel, you still got that gizmo voice. Frank Welker, I know you still working, baby. So let's see what happens with this. Get it going, get it greenlit, get it moving forward. Let me see some photos on the set. Let me see that trailer. And then that's when I can just really feel like, oh my gosh, because when I see that this is actually happening, like when I see some footage, when I see a trailer, when I see the set, prepare to be sick of me. When Gremlins is in the production line, this becomes a Gremlins channel. I will be the one and only failing Gremlins channel on the internet, and I will wear that with pride. So get ready, baby. Get out on the bright light. Eat after midnight. Get yourself wet, because Gremlins time is coming. I love you like a play cousin. I'm Addy 5000.